My name's Lloyd. I'm from the Yarra Energy Foundation, and we are a small not-for-profit. We're based in Yarra, and we work with local governments, so councils and the communities that they serve to help them reduce energy expenses, as well as their emissions. And we don't do that just in Yarra. We do that across Melbourne, and across Australia. And on the right there, that photo is one of our it's something we're pretty proud of as an organization. It's one of the first community batteries in an urban setting. It made some headlines last year. But yeah, it's just a token of some of the things that we work towards with the communities that we serve as well. So the Hume Solar Rollout, obviously, what's our role there? We are essentially acting as the link between Hume City Council, the solar provider Green Home Green Planet, who we've got on the call today, and you as the Hume resident. And so our role is to support you throughout the program and beyond the program as well, right? So we've obviously done the whole pre-vetting process, which I'll touch on later, and selected Green Home Green Planet as the vetted supplier for the program. And we've negotiated lower pricing for the program, especially for Hume residents. And we're just here to ensure that all the participants, receive the best service, the best quality, and the best price for a, rooftop solar installation. And so, when we look at the Hume Solar Rollout as a whole, what are the benefits of coming through the program? Firstly, you're getting premium products at reduced costs. We're making sure, and I'll touch on it again in a bit, but everything installed is tier 1 quality products, and I'm sure Dan will touch on that in more detail. But he's installing systems on your home that he has on his own house. So it really goes to show the quality that's being installed through the program. Second benefit, obviously, you're getting help and access to substantial rebates. That's through federal government, which I'll touch on. That's through the state government, and that's also through the local government. So all 3 different tiers have rebates on offer to help you reduce the upfront costs of installing a system here, which is just fantastic, really. Third, as I've touched on already, we've pre-vetted the supplier for you, and the installation is sure to be high quality, and they are contracted under through YEF to uphold that quality and uphold the products that they're using as well. And then the last 2 are the real winners, right? You're getting reduced energy bills, and you're getting reduced household emissions as well. So those are the 5 major benefits, and maybe 6 if you get to talk to me, which is a great benefit too if you're about that. So let's move on to solar power. That's why we're here tonight, to talk about that. And as Kelly mentioned, that system on the right there is one that I installed about 3 years ago. Unfortunately, that one wasn't in Hume, that was in Kew, but it's a pretty good looking system, so I included it there, just why not. So why should you install solar? Firstly, solar power is great for the environment. It's truly clean energy from a renewable energy source, which is the sun. It's going to be there every day, and it's reducing your reliance on fossil fuel generated electricity, as well as reducing your reliance on gas, which is also a fossil fuel as well, if you can electrify some appliances in the home too. Solar power can help reduce your bills, your energy bills. You can expect to save, between 30 to 60%, sometimes more, especially if you can electrify your home. You can really see some substantial savings from installing a solar system on your roof there. As I've already mentioned, and I'll touch on further into the presentation tonight, solar panels can be heavily subsidized by the government. And when I say the government, again, I mean the federal, the state, and the local government are all offering subsidies through this program, which is just fantastic. And like I just mentioned, our homes are only going to become more electric. I think it's really important for people to realize here in Victoria, the state government has a getting off gas program in place. They have a big plan to get residents across the state off of gas, and that's by electrifying their hot water, electrifying their cooking, and electrifying their space conditioning as well. So in the coming years, our homes are going to become more and more electric. So if you can produce, electricity from your own roof, that's where, a real win comes in, and you see those real savings come across as well. And number five, solar smugness. It's real, right? Everyone, when they get a solar panel system installed, they like to tell their friends, tell their neighbors, show off their bills and show the reduction they've got. So, get involved and show off to those friends and neighbors who haven't got solar yet. That's a real win as well. So looking at the big picture, Australia really is the place for solar, namely because the sun is so strong and powerful here. You can tell from my accent, I'm from the UK originally, where we don't even know what the sun is, right? But here in Australia, you really, really are blessed with that resource. As well as that, excellent government policy back in the 90s made installing solar so cheap and so easy compared to the rest of the world. It truly makes it a no-brainer here. And because of that policy that was put in place, Australia has the access to the cheapest home energy in the entire world, and that's rooftop solar here. As I say, no other country, no other person across the globe has access to cheaper home energy than Australian rooftop solar. And when you look at the course of its lifetime, it's costing about 3 cents per kilowatt hour, and that's compared to around an average of 25 cents per kilowatt hour from the grid. So even when we consider, when the grid does become 100% renewable, you obviously can still be connected to that and use it for backup, but the cheapest energy is always going to come from your own roof because you're not having to pay any transmission and distribution costs. You're purely getting that electricity straight from your roof to the inverter and into your switchboard, into your home. So here's just a graph to show that visually. At the top, the black bar there is the grid electricity price. Again, maybe it's around 25 cents. Some people pay more, some people pay less. And then the bottom yellow there is the cost of the solar over the lifetime. And I think this just shows it, perfectly, the comparison between the two there. Credit to Rewiring Australia for this image as well. Highly recommend you check that organization out if you're not familiar with them. They have some fantastic resources just like this that will help people understand the energy transition in a much simpler way. So let's talk about return on investment, because obviously that's very, very important when people are making big decisions like installing a solar system on the roof. It's not a small chunk of money in some cases, especially if you go for a larger system. So in reality, your electricity bill should guide the size of your solar budget. I know it's late on a Thursday night. I'm going to do a little bit of maths here, but stick with me. Let's say, for example, you're spending $400 a quarter on your electricity bill. That's $16,000 over a 10-year span on electricity. And what I want to make clear is that is never going to pay for itself, right? You'll pay that $16,000 over 10 years, and that's money gone down the drain. It's never going to pay for itself, unlike a solar system. So in reality, $16,000 should be this person's solar budget. Of course, that's ridiculous. No one needs to spend $16,000 on solar. But when you look at a solar system, it's going to last longer than 10 years. So that makes it a pretty long-term investment, but they recover the upfront costs, fairly quickly, and you'll eventually have free electricity for a long time to come. And so when we look at the average return on investment in Melbourne, solar systems are paying for themselves in around 3 to 7 years on average. And because of the lower price points negotiated through this program, this is going to be far quicker. And it can be far faster as well when you think about load shifting, which I'll touch on in a few slides' time. But you basically want to try and consume as much of that power as you can yourself in your own home. So if you have an electrified home, or you even have an electrified car, you'll really start seeing those savings compound themselves. And that's when you see systems pay for themselves in less than a year, I've seen in some cases. So when we think about tips for installing a solar system on the roof, you really want to be looking at tier 1 quality products. They have the best efficiency and the best warranties, and they're just the most trusted products in the market. And truly, the price doesn't vary greatly between these tiers. So anyone offering anything else isn't really looking at your best interest, right? They're trying to cheap out on costs and cheap out on quality. So always make sure you're looking at tier 1 quality. Again, the products used within this program are certainly tier 1 quality products. So you don't need to worry if you're coming through the program here. You really do want to avoid the cheapest systems, again, outside of this program. Low-cost solar suppliers, they have very, very slim profit margins, and so that makes them compromise on the quality. And so, especially when government is handing out money to install these things, that means a lot of shark companies appear in the industry, right? And they try and underquote and install very, very cheap systems. But they aren't going to be there in around 3 years, 5 years' time. If something does go wrong and you need a warranty claim, they've gone out of business. They've moved on to the next thing to try and make another quick buck. Again, why this program exists, we're connecting you with a pre-vetted supplier who's been in the game for 14, 15 years. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be here whenever you need them if something does go wrong down the track, which hopefully it doesn't anyway. Like I've touched on, the payback times do vary. You really want to load shift to make the most of your system. And I've got a slide to show this visually, but that means, energy intensive things like running your dishwasher, running your washing machine, running your dryer. If you can do that during the day, during the solar window, when you're producing the most energy, that's how you get your fastest return on investment. Not by sending spare energy back to the grid, but by consuming as much as you can. And that's, like I said, because self-consuming is the fastest way to recover the investment. A lot of people like to talk about a feed-in tariff and all this kind of stuff. It's a great bonus, but it is very low and it's going to keep going down. Average feed-in tariffs are now 3 to 5 cents, I think. Other than people on the old 60-cent premium tariff, which is being phased out this year, the fastest way to pay for a system is to consume as much of that power as you can. One thing to really remember as well is, especially if you're in an older home, is you might need to upgrade that switchboard or fuse box, whatever you refer to it as. And that's just because it might be full. And Dan's got some photos to show that visually as well. But it might be a full switchboard. It might be old with ceramic fuses and things like this. So it would need to be upgraded if it is old and full to make sure it can have the capacity to host the solar system on. And this can be organized through Green Home Green Planet. They're more than happy to do that on the day of the install, or you could organize that for your own electrician before the solar installation gets done as well. And while we're on additional costs, I'm sure Dan will touch on it in his part of the presentation. There are a few other things that can affect the cost of the system. Namely, if you have a double-story home, you need a switchboard upgrade, or you go for a more premium inverter, which, like I said, Dan will touch on later on tonight. So here's this load shifting that I was talking about being shown a bit more visually, so you can get a better understanding. And so, again, this is from Rewiring Australia, and this is an all-electric home, so they have electrified their car, they've electrified their hot water, they've electrified their space conditioning as well. And when we look on the left, this is what we call standard behavior. And you can see the yellow is the big solar spike there, the solar window, like we like to call it. And that's when your production is, peaking right in the middle of the day, around 1 p.m., 12 p.m. time. And so on the left, you can see the spikes in the load on the far left side, the gray there, and on the far right. And so this is what we want to try and encourage people to shift into that solar window. So if you look on the right, this is what we call ideal behavior. So you can see the big gray spike is now totally within that solar window. That's them charging their electric vehicle. You can see their water heating, their cooking, their dishwasher, and everything spiking at around 2 to 4 p.m. there as well within the solar window. And like I said, that's how you really get the savings to compound themselves when you have a solar system. So it's more than just putting the panels on your roof. It's also about a bit of behavioral change and changing the way you do things around the home. And once you get into that and you start seeing the savings come through on the bill, it starts to get a bit addictive. And then you're like, what else can I run during the day? So yeah, encourage you to think about what you can do before you even have the system on your roof. Try and get those behaviors going already. Okay, so let's talk a bit more specific about the program now. Why is Green Home Green Planet been selected? So Yarra Energy Foundation, we facilitated a very rigorous procurement process to select a provider for the Hume Solar Rollout. We released a very competitive expression of interest document, which had over about 60 points of criteria on there. which Green Home Green Planet met or went beyond in their responses there. There's thousands and thousands of solar providers out there. So the aim of this process was to ensure that, we're working with an experienced, trusted and reputable provider, while also providing some significant cost reductions as well for the program. As I said, Green Home Green Planet, they've got a very strong history, been in the energy space for 14, 15 years now, maybe longer, maybe Dan can correct me, I'm not sure, but look, they're here to stay. They're here to be a partner of yours to install this solar. So, they're really here to hold your hand and help you through that process. So like I said, they were successful in that process because they're a leader in the space. They've got a very competitive pricing structure, a very strong customer service record, as shown by the stats that Kelly showed, over 250, 260 homes installed through this program alone. They are ensuring they're using high quality tier 1 products like I touched on, and Dan will speak on the exact products used as well. They're obviously a Clean Energy Council approved solar retailer, and they've all got, full accredited installers that are doing the job on the day as well. So now I'm just going to talk about some of the incentives that are available to you from those 3 levels of government that I mentioned at the start. So firstly, we've got the federal government incentive. And that means you can claim something which is called a small scale technology certificates, also known as STCs. And truly, you don't need to worry too much about this one. I'm just including it to get across that extant policy that was put in place that I mentioned right at the start. And so these are applied as a point of sale discount. They're automatically done. You don't have to apply for anything yourself. But it basically means, if you buy a solar system today, it is subsidized by the federal government scheme, and that's around $350 per kilowatt installed. So, like I said, typically advertised prices are already reflecting this discount. You don't really need to worry about it too much. So let's break it down really quick, just so you can see where those savings are coming in. We'll take a standard 6.6 kilowatt system. Usually that would cost $8,717, for example. For that size of system, you can claim around $2,331 that the federal government will give an incentive towards. So after those STCs, that 6.6 kilowatt system now costs $6,386. It's important to remember that STCs do reduce by about 6.5% every single year. That's just because the way the government calculates it is up until 2030. So basically what that means is every year you wait to install solar, the less rebate you're actually going to receive from the federal government there. So now we'll move on to the state level rebates as well. So this is where you need to pay a bit more attention because it's not done automatically for you like the federal level government rebate is. So Solar Victoria, which is the governing body that does our state level rebate here in Victoria, they offer to eligible residents $1,400 rebate. That's a straight government discount. You do not need to pay that back. They also give an option of an optional $1,400 no interest loan, and that's paid back over a period of 4 years. So it usually equates to about $20 a month, which is usually far less than the savings you generate from the system. So I do always tend to encourage people to take that loan if they can and they want to. Granted, not everyone wants to be in debt with the government, but it is a great way to offset those upfront costs. And like I said, it has no interest, so it's you're not paying back more than you borrow. So essentially, that gives you $2,800 off the upfront cost of the system there. I'll just quickly run through the eligibility criteria, but you can find this online on the Solar Victoria website. You do have to be the owner-occupier of the property. You have to have a combined household taxable income of less than $210,000 per year. Your property has to be valued under $3 million. The property hasn't previously received a solar panel PV rebate through the program. and the property has not had a solar panel system installed in the last 10 years. So if your property does already have solar on the roof, but it's more than 10 years old and you didn't claim a rebate for that, you can claim a rebate to replace that system. So you can go for a bigger system or just a newer, up-to-date system as well. And lastly, like I mentioned, all 3 levels of government have a rebate scheme. So Hume Council is offering a concession card rebate through this program. So anyone that is eligible for that Solar Victoria rebate that has a valid concession card can be provided with an additional rebate to further reduce those upfront costs. So, Hume Council are generously offering $920 for the smallest size system we have, which is the 3 kilowatt system. And they're offering $850 for any of the other system sizes as well to any valid concession card holders. And just to note, the higher rebate for the smallest standard system is to enable any concession card holders to install a system for just around $100 upfront cost, noting that that's for the routine install. If, like I said at the start, if you have a double story, if you have, need a switchboard upgrade or extra wiring is required, that might bump up a bit more than $100 upfront cost as well. But obviously Dan is going to be fully transparent, and I'm always here to talk about the quotes as well if needed. So when we look at that combined with those state level rebates, you're looking at around either $3,720 or $3,650 off the upfront system cost, which is fairly substantial. So it's a really great program to come through to really reduce those upfront costs of a solar system. Get this question a lot. What about batteries? A lot of people, especially after what went down at the start of the week with all those power outages there, people wanting to know about energy security and how to have backup power and all this kind of stuff. So essentially, batteries do allow you to use any of that excess solar power during the night, but unfortunately they are quite expensive to install. And when we look at residential solar batteries, they're usually costing anywhere between $1,000 and $1,300 per kilowatt hour. This is depending on the brand, the size, and where you're getting it installed. But there is also interest-free loans available. So, a government loan again through Solar Victoria, and they offer a $8,800 no-interest loan, again paid back over 4 years. So if you are considering a battery, there are also interest-free loan options for you. And usually a residential battery, you'd usually be looking at either a 5 kilowatt hour or a 10 kilowatt hour battery. So you can see it's going to be anywhere between $6,000 and $13,000 to install one of these batteries. So usually what I say is for most people, get solar now and you can add a battery later, because we are expecting those battery prices to come down. We've been hearing that for a long time, but there are murmurings that the battery prices are going to drop again. So like I say, make sure you're getting, which you are through this program, but make sure you're getting a battery ready inverter if you are considering a battery in the future. So I'm nearly finished for the evening, but I'll just run quickly through how the program works. So firstly, you want to visit the Hume Solar Program website, which is listed here, just humesolarprogram.org.au, or if you prefer, you can call me, that's the main YEF hotline there. You then register your contact details. Again, you can do that yourself on the website, or I can do it over the phone. These details are then passed on to Green Home Green Planet. Green Home Green Planet will then call you back within 3 to 5 business days to discuss your options. And Dan will run through their process a bit more detail, but they'll probably request an electricity bill and a photo of your switchboard, so they can then look at your usage patterns and all this kind of stuff and tailor a system that's what's going to suit you. They'll also probably ask questions about your future usage. Are you thinking about an EV? Are you thinking about getting a hot water heat pump? Because if you are, you want to consider how much electricity you're going to be using in 5 years' time, for example. Also, you might need a photo of your concession card if you're going to be claiming that concession card rebate as well. So after that, Dan will send you the tailored quote. He has an example of the quote coming up later, so you'll see what you will receive. Then it's up to you really to review that quote, discuss any possible changes. Maybe you want to go a bit smaller, maybe you want to go a bit bigger. You can also call me up as well if you want to have a chat about that quote and see if it's the best for your situation. Then you apply for the rebate and the no interest loan if you're applying for that, if you're eligible. And then you'll receive approval from Solar Victoria. You confirm that installation, and then a few weeks after you get that installation date confirmed, you'll have your solar system up on your roof, generating power and reducing those bills for you. So how are we going to support you? Like I said right at the start, we're here to make the program as simple and transparent as we can. I'm here to provide expert independent advice. You can call the F line there that's listed, or you can email me. That's my personal work email there, and I'm pretty responsive if you have any queries. And yeah, like I said, head to the humesolarprogram.org.au. There's plenty of information on there as well, or to register your interest. And I think that's me done. So I'm going to hand over to Dan to chat more about the specifics, and just let me know, Dan, when you want to click through to the next slide, I guess. But thank you very much for listening, guys. I'll be here to answer questions at the end.
Okay, thanks for that, Lloyd, that nice intro there. So I'm from Green Home Green Planet. I don't want to speak too much about our company, but briefly, we've been in the business for a long time, about 14 years, and we've been associated with the Hume Council for about 3 years. We've done a couple of hundred installations. They've pretty much all worked well. So we've got pretty good experience there, and we're also a recommended installer for the Victorian government as well for energy saving products like heating and cooling. And we only use Clean Energy Council approved products as well. And I suppose the other thing is we do buy in bulk, so we're able to pass on pretty good savings there. And then just by having the latest technology, panels and these things, they have come down in price, so we're able to pass those on to the consumer as well. So you get good value. We may not be the cheapest in the market, and we probably don't want to be the cheapest, but the products we use work well together there. Lloyd, if you can click onto the next slide there. We can have a look briefly about how solar and batteries work. I mean, a solar system, it's pretty simple. We put panels on the roof, solar panels on your roof. And when the light comes up in the morning, it doesn't have to be sunny, just light comes up in the morning, it generates energy into your house. But that's actually DC energy, which you can't use into your house. You've got to convert it into AC energy. So there's an inverter that we install as well. It's like a white box the size of your switchboard. That converts the energy into AC, runs into your house, bang, you can use it. So you're not drawing energy from the grid during the day. So the idea is the solar is going to cover your daytime electricity usage and save you money, but it's obviously not going to cover your nighttime electricity usage. If you want to cover your nighttime electricity usage, then you need to buy a battery that will store the energy, and you can draw from the battery at night time, as Lloyd mentioned there. Yeah, we can probably go on the next slide. Thanks. This is where you get your energy savings on. I don't want to touch too much. We're looking at a sort of a timeline. During the morning period, you'll see your spikes of energy there, where there's kind of high energy needs when people get up in the morning and they're making breakfast, they're putting on the toaster and whatever else. The kids are getting ready for school. So that's usually when you're purchasing power from the grid that costs you money. And conversely, in the evening time, at the end of the graph there, when people are home from work and school, you're using energy as well, and that's costing you money. But and we've got a sort of graph in the middle, or a bell curve in the middle. That's the solar production, you see. And the solar production is kind of highest during the day. It's not just the middle of the day. It's probably running, from 8 till 6, 7, longer in summer period. But that's when you're getting free energy. So the idea is, when you, instead of running your dishwasher and your washing machine and your kettle and these things at night time when the solar isn't working, try and run that during the day. Shift the load during the day, because then the solar energy will cover that. You get very smart at using your energy. And if I'm home during the day and I want to run something on, I've got solar on my roof. I literally look outside. Is it a cloudy day? Well, if it's cloudy, I might wait an hour or two. If the sunny, bang, I put on the appliance and I know the cost is going to be covered. Thanks, Lloyd. So we basically, this is how we designed a proposal for you. So we'll speak to you over the phone, run you through a few questions as well, get your details, work out what type of system is going to work well for you. And we'd send you out kind of like, this is an example proposal. So there's a house in the middle. We've placed the panels on the roof. So you get a visual design of where they're going to be placed, how many is on the roof there. And then you'll see a sort of summary page there on this example. This is a 4.15 kilowatt size solar system. The savings for this person, estimated annual savings each year. The cost of the system to them, the net system price or cost is $1,540. So on the right, we see the payback period. So based on the savings of $890 per year, this particular system will pay itself off in 1.99 years there. So that's a very good payback there. It's probably a little bit faster than most systems, but that's typically kind of the look of the proposal that we'd send you there. If you can forward to the next page as well, Lloyd. And on this proposal we send you, we ask you for your electricity bills. If you can send me an electricity bill, because on the back side of your bill, the cost is and how many, that shows us how much energy you use each month. And we actually plot those figures into the proposal each month, how many, what you're using there. And then that helps us design the right solar system for you. If it's a one-person household and you're a low user, you're not using much energy, we're going to suggest you use a smaller system. And the opposite, of course, if you're a family of 4 or 5. And then we send it to you in this report. So on this example, the green bars, the grey section or curve in the middle is your this person's electricity usage. And here the green bars going up and down is what the solar system is producing. So you see in January, February, during summertime, the electricity or the solar production is pretty high. It's producing 20 kilowatt hours per day. And that gradually goes down. And during, we're in Melbourne, the winter's pretty average. During winter time here, your solar production is going to be a fair bit lower. So don't expect your bills to eradicate completely. Usually in winter, you will still have a little bit of an electricity bill, even if you've installed solar there. And on this person's example, it shows you that out of the solar, they will use 37% of it, and 63% will be exported back to the grid. The idea is we don't want to export too much solar energy back to the grid, because when you sell it back to the grid, some of you might know, you get paid a feed-in tariff, but you don't get paid much. It's only 5 cents a kilowatt hour. So you're not going to make your money back by selling the energy back to the grid. You get your money back by using the solar energy during the day, because you pay about 28 or 30 cents a kilowatt hour when you use the energy from the grid. So every time you use the solar during the day, that's saving you 30 cents a kilowatt hour. Okay, thanks, Lloyd. So when I we're going to look at your roof, we can see satellite photography of your roof. And firstly, we look at like the space of Is it affected by shading if there's any trees nearby? So if so, we have to use a different roof face. We ask you what type of material is on your roof, or we can or color bond. We look at your roof pitch as well. And then basically we look at the system size. We get hold of your bill, we find out how much you're using and spending, and we tailor the solar system size to what you need. But we also ask you, look, this is your electricity usage now, but how is it going to be in the next 10 years? Are you going to add anything to the home that will bump up your electricity usage? For example, do you have gas now, like gas heating? A lot of people have gas heating in Melbourne, and they may have a plan to get off that gas heating and go electric and buy split systems. And if they do, that's obviously a large scale or a large size 6 or 7 kilowatt split system running in the house by, say, 6 to 8 kilowatt hours per day. So we have to factor that in, and we kind of design a system that's going to have at least more electricity capacity than what you currently need. So then you can add these appliances for the future. Of course, if you're short of money and you don't have a lot to spend, you can get your smaller system, but it is wise to sort of try and get a larger system to accommodate, appliances going in the future there. Thanks, Lloyd. So we ask you for, as well, if you can go out and just take a photo of your switchboard and send it back to us, because the engineer has to have a look at it to see if it's ready for solar. And a lot of homes might need a bit of a small upgrade or a bit of work here. If we see on the first picture here, by the way, I'm not an engineer or an electrician, so I've only got a basic knowledge of it, but I sit next to two engineers, and they're always, giving me advice and telling me off and talking down to me as well. So that's one thing. Try not to work with engineers as well. But for example, this first picture of the switchboard here, we've got no extra spaces to put in the circuit breakers for the solar. So that, if you had this kind of switchboard, that would need work to put in the extra spacing there. The middle picture here is fine. This they've got the right ampage. The last picture there, it doesn't work. It's going to. In the photo, we need to see what kind of amps you've got as well on the fuses as well. So we need a fairly clear picture so the engineer can read the fuses. And a lot of the time, if you've got a bit of an older switchboard and you've got a 10mm cable running from the property, that may need to be upgraded to the breakers there. So it might need a bit of minor work. So just be aware of that. Thanks, Lloyd. So we're looking at, Lloyd has already touched on this, so I don't want to spend too much time, but why install solar PV now? It's a pretty good time to get it, because the Victorian government give you the rebate of $1,400 plus the loan if you want for $1,400 as well, the interest-free loan. This rebate was $1,800 about a year and a half ago, but the government's reducing its funding because they can't, obviously pay out forever. So the longer you wait, that rebate may go down. So now's a good time to get in before the $1,400 drops to $1,000. And also the STCs that he described, the federal rebate as well, that's getting reduced by 6.5% a year. So if you wait till next year, the system will be $200 at least more expensive now. And the sooner you get it on the roof, the sooner you start saving money there. Thanks, Lloyd. I'll just touch briefly on the panels that we use. We use Trina solar panels, and yes, they are manufactured in China, but like most other things, your phones, your cars, etc., that's where things are made generally. So, but these are tier 1 quality panels, and Trina, I think, is the 3rd largest solar panel manufacturer in the world. So it's a giant company, but they have the economies of scale because they're producing so much. Their panels work out to be quite cost effective. They don't cost a lot, yet they're incredibly high quality because they sell a lot. The warranty, it's actually it's a 25-year warranty. I noticed someone had a question before: are they covered by insurance? You can cover your panels for insurance, but you don't have to, because they're protected by a warranty, a 25-year warranty. So hail, cyclones, whatever, if there's any crack or damage that appears, you can get the panel replaced for no cost there. So it's an amazing warranty, 25 years. And all the panels are CEC approved as well. And just going on, I'm just going to mention the capacity of the panels. We use 440 watt panels because that's kind of the largest capacity you can get now. A year ago, the largest or best panels you could use were maybe, say, 350 watt. But this is always increasing over time. The technology is better. So now we use 440 watt because that's the highest capacity you can get. And for example, if you put 10 panels on your roof at 440 watt, that's a 4.4 kilowatt size system. So that's literally how we work out the size of the systems there. Okay, thanks, Lloyd. I won't go into too much details, but the panels are mounted on tilt frames that we use, high quality tilt frames or easy rack frames. So we don't actually put, Lloyd would probably be about this, but we don't put the panels directly onto your roof. The panels go onto a racking system first, then the racking system actually goes onto your roof. And the racking doesn't go, this is a ColourBond roof, so that's fine. We're putting or it's actually a clip lock roof, so the racking can fix directly onto the tin surface there. But most of you will probably have cement tile, concrete tile. Actual tilt frames and racking doesn't go onto the tile. The installer has to gently lift up the tile and place the racking underneath to the wooden battens underneath, because it's going to be more secured. So they sit there on the wooden battens, puts the tile back on, and at times he might have to cut into the tile to make sure he has access to the wooden battens underneath. But rest assured, these are quality installers, CSC approved, and it comes with a 7-year warranty as well. So if there's any problems there, or if you think there's water leakage or anything, you're covered for seven years there, which is pretty safe and sound. Thanks, Lloyd. So that's the panels we use, GoodWe, and surprise, surprise, the inverter that we use is a GoodWe inverter, which is also made. Sorry, the panels are Trina. The inverter is GoodWe, which is a Chinese company. They've been around for a number of years. It's kind of a standard inverter that you can get. I've got it on my roof. I have these products for the last year and a half. They work completely fine. We've put these two products together and installed hundreds of systems in Hume the last 3.5 years. They work very well together. We haven't had a problem, so that's why we do it. You get a 10-year warranty. This company, they have a home office in Tullamarine. If there's any problems, we can get hold of them very well. And it's just basically a very good price, and it performs very well, and it's CSC approved. So that's kind of why we use it there. Thanks, Lloyd. If you don't want the normal entry-level inverter, if you want something maybe more high quality, we do have European-made inverters, and one that's built in Germany. It's considered one of the better inverters on the market. It actually comes with a T as well. It's the output. It performs the same way as GoodWe. It converts the energy there from DC into AC. And in fact, there's not a lot of difference in quality in the conversion rate between, say, an SMA and a GoodWe inverter. They're pretty similar. But the SMA also probably has a bit more of a sophisticated energy monitoring portal. So you can monitor the output of your home and the solar production and see more details, as in the analysis of daily, weekly performance and graphs, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of, yeah, one of the reasons why people use the SMA as well. And similar to the SMA is the Fronius inverter. This is considered one of the best inverters on the market. It's actually built in Austria. That comes with a 10-year warranty as well. These two inverters, by the way, I know everyone's going to ask me, what's the difference in price? They actually cost about $1,500 more than the Goodway. So that's kind of why I went for the Goodway inverter. For the $1,500 more, I didn't think it was probably worth it. I know there's probably some retired German engineers at home who say, no, I'm going to use the Fronius and SMA, and that's good for them. It's really up to you. But I found in the conversion rates of converting the energy wasn't a lot of huge difference, but the European ones certainly had a lot more sophisticated monitoring technology, so you can access it on your app or the portal at home, which a lot of people like. Okay. I won't go into too much details on the optimizers to tell you the truth, but if your home by shading, what happens is it affects the whole performance of the panels, because we usually lie the panels in a row of, say, anywhere between 4 and 8 panels, and they're all in a row lying together. But if you get a bit of shading that affects one panel, that'll actually affect the performance of the whole row of 6 or 8. So we really try and avoid shading there because of that. But one way to get around it is to install optimizers. And what these optimizers do is they can actually allow each individual panel to operate independently of each other. So if you have one panel in the row of 6 that is affected by shading, if you've got optimizers, it'll allow for the other 5 panels to still be performing at maximum capacity while that one panel is affected by shading. So that's kind of a way we can get around a house affected by shading. But a lot of the time we don't have to use it. But if that applies to your house, we can speak to you about those options. Thanks, Lloyd. So here we go. We're really looking at the system sizes and the costs as well. And this is the cost of the solar systems before we've applied the Victorian rebate and loan there. So this is kind of the base cost of the systems. And, this is what they generally cost. It's about $1,000 a kilowatt. So a 3 kilowatt size system with the Goodway inverter is going to cost $3,820. If you want to go for the nice European inverter, it's going to be over $5,500 there, or $5,300. So that's the extra cost, the $1,500 inverter. And then similarly with the other size systems, 4.4 kilowatt is going to cost $4,700. But that's not what you're going to pay, because pretty much most of you, or hopefully most of you, should be eligible for the rebate and loan. So Lloyd, if we can look at the next slide, I believe it's got the prices with the $1,400 rebate and loan. Yes, so when we apply the $1,400 rebate and loan, this is kind of what the prices you'll pay. And if we focus on the Goodway systems in the middle, the inverters, so our small system, 3.08 kilowatts, that's actually comprised of 7 panels, 7 440 watt panels equals 3.08. So that's our smaller system. You would pay $1,020 after the Victorian government rebate and loan, the $1,400. But remember, the loan you still have to pay back when the system's installed. So the cost of the system will really be $1,020 plus the $1,400 loan you pay back. So you will pay back $2,400 there. Remember, the $1,400 loan, the payments don't start until the system's installed, and you can pay, there's no interest or fees charged, and you can pay that back very slowly over a 4-year period. So the monthly repayments are about $30 a month. But typically, this is the cost that of the systems that the average person is looking at. And likewise, a 4.4 kilowatt system it's $1,925 that you will have to pay, plus the $1,400 loan. But as we mentioned, a lot of you are eligible for this Hume concession, and that's really generous. If anyone has a concession card out there, you're going to get a very large rebate off this price again. So if we can flick to the next slide, Lloyd, I think it shows the prices with the rebate as well. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Yep, you've already jumped the gun. So if you're eligible for the Hume concession on a 3.08 kilowatt system, if you've got a concession card, we give you an extra $920, or Hume Council will give you an extra $920 concession there. They sent out communication saying it was a $700 rebate, but they've actually increased it in the last couple of weeks. So it's a $920 rebate. So for a good wee inverter, a smaller 3.8 kilowatt system, you only pay $100 up front, which is incredibly low, plus the $1,400 loan when the system's installed. So your total will be $1,500 there. And that's pretty good considering most other people are going to pay up to around about $3,000 for this type of system. So that's very low. Conversely, if you go to the next size system up, which is 4.4 kilowatts, and again, that's going to be 10 panels of 440 watt, your upfront cost is $1,075, plus the $1,400 Solar Victoria loan that you have to pay off. So you're looking at $2,500 for that. And obviously it increases there. The 5.2 kilowatt system will be $1,780 plus the $1,400 loan. But again, as Lloyd stressed, we can't guarantee that this is what you'll pay, because a lot of the time there may be extra costs. For example, if your house is not single story and double story, there's extra cost to install on a double story roof. The installer has to go through a lot more labor charges, a lot more work. And they also have to install scaffolding as well as protection, as edge protection in Victoria. So they charge us. So for example, a double story house is going to cost an extra $600 on top of this. Or if your switchboard is a little bit old and it needs an upgrade or a derating of its main switch, that may be an extra $300 charge as well. So we cannot guarantee that you'll pay these prices up front. At times there may be extra costs as well. Okay, great. So that's about almost it from me. We'll be able to answer the questions you've got at the end. But so if you're interested, register now, call that number or go online to the Hume website and register your details. We'll contact you within 3 to 5 days. It won't be the same day. There's a huge rush of people, so it's going to take a while. I'll speak to you. We need a copy, of your electricity bill and photos of your switchboard. Then we design the system, email out a quote to you, and probably give you a call a week later. Or if you have any questions, you can call us back or speak to Jeff. If you don't like your quote, you can definitely call up Lloyd and get angry at him, because he's usually the first point of contact, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. Just joking. And if you're satisfied, what happens is we usually get you to pay a small deposit or just $100 up front for your system so we can start it. And then we register your details with Solar Victoria, and you go online and apply for the $1,400 rebate and loan. But don't go online yourself and start that process, because we have to lodge the application first, and then you get an email link that you have to click on to start that process there. So we will lodge or start the application first. Just be aware of that. Solar Victoria, if you're approved, a lot of the time you're approved within 2 hours, bang. Or if there's some, they'll check your identification, your details, concession card, etc. And if there's any problem with the identification, sometimes they can take up to 3 to 5 days. Solar Victoria, they're a bit short-staffed, like a lot of government organisations, so they can take a bit longer. But once your Solar Victoria is approved, we'll probably get you installed within 2 to 3 weeks. So it says 8 weeks here. It shouldn't be that long. We're hoping to install you within 2 to 3 weeks. When your system is installed on the roof, it's not ready to go because a safety inspector from Victoria has to check it. He has to come out, have an overview of the system, look at the panels, inverter, make sure everything's wired correctly, and he's got to give it the once ahead and check it. And in Victoria, so many people are getting solar installed. There's a bit of a wait for the inspectors. There's a number of inspectors working, but it can be up to a couple of weeks. So unfortunately, you got to sit and wait there. I remember I waited about 3 weeks, looking at my solar panels every day, waiting for the guy, and he didn't come out. But once he gives it the go ahead, bang, your solar panels and your solar system is working. And you may require just an upgrade or a reconfiguration of your meter to sell the solar energy back to the grid. Your retailer will do that for you. So the electricity retailer, Origin, AGL, Simply, Lumo, whoever you're with, they will upgrade, reconfigure your meter. It's usually a pretty small cost, around $60, and that just goes onto your next bill. Okay, great.